I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC 306, UFC Noche, where I talk about the biggest winners and losers from the event. And this one was pretty easy, I think, compared to some of the ones we've done in the past. The biggest stock riser on this card, without question, is Merab Dvalishvili. Did have some people in my chat saying the fight wasn't very exciting. Completely disagree. But listen, Merab is the bantamweight champion. Doesn't get much better than this. We had all this stuff going into the fight, from the potential staph infection to the cut. There was all types of stuff. If Merab would have lost, the UFC, we know, is not very happy with Merab. But it's not only that he was dealing with. It was the fact that, in the company, maybe not super favorable towards him. It's the fact that he absolutely dominated Sean O'Malley in this fight. Like, this was one of the biggest beatdowns from a challenger in a title fight. Merab Dvalishvili, still, as far as I'm concerned, undefeated in the UFC, right? Did lose to Ricky Simone. That was a weird ending. Ended in the end of the fight. They should have ended up being a decision win for Merab there. And then the Frankie Saenz fight, if you actually watch that fight, Merab clearly won. So should be undefeated. Well deserved. Worked his way up. Had to deal with so much crap from, his teammate's the champion and all this different stuff. Merab went out there and he got it done. His stock is very high. And for simply the fact that he's the champion. And he put on a very good performance, a very dominating performance over Sean O'Malley. And look, you could say Valentina Shevchenko could get number one spot. We're going to talk about her in a sec because she obviously had a dominant win as well over Alexa Grasso. But I think this fight was more entertaining, and I think Merab had to deal with, I have this assumption that the UFC does not like Merab that much. So the fact that he went out there, took out one of their biggest stars and someone that, does talk a lot of trash and has knockout power. He does. I mean, he knocked out his teammate Aljamain Sterling. So this was a very, very, very big win. Merab pushed it all the way to the end and he looked great. And so Merab, easy stock riser, definitely biggest stock riser on this card. Next fighter, referencer there, Valentina Shevchenko. What a performance this was. Where was this Valentina the first two fights? She looked outstanding. 36 years old. I thought maybe, younger fighter in Grasso and, having the two wins or the one win and then the draw, that maybe she could get it done. But Valentina totally shut her out. There's a few times when Grasso had her on the ground, you thought maybe she could get her. But it didn't matter. Shevchenko looked awesome. Really looking forward to her and Manon Fiorot next. I'm assuming that's what's going to be the next fight. I think for Grasso, you should do her and Macy Barber next. Do that rematch. I think that could make some sense right now with the Grasso losing. But yeah, Valentina put on a great performance. Most people felt like this was one of the weaker fights in the card in terms of entertainment. People weren't enjoying it too much. But it doesn't matter. Valentina gets her belt back. And now the possibilities are endless because I think too, if she goes out there and beats Manon Fiorot, like who's really waiting in the wings? I would like to see her move up and fight at 35 because that division's pretty weak right now, right? Other than maybe Kayla Harrison, especially if like Juliana Pena beats Raquel Pennington. If you're Valentina, why wouldn't you move up and try and get a second belt when it's a girl that you submitted a number of years ago? So big win there for Valentina, easy stock riser there. And then, if this was any other card, right? Like if this was a card where you didn't have these two other title fights, Diego Lopez for sure would be the biggest stock riser on this card. Dominant performance. He almost finished Ortega in the first round. Who's done that to Ortega before? That was very, very, very impressive. I know people say Yair Rodriguez finished him in the first round. That was more of an injury. Lopez nearly knocked him out there in that first round. So credit to him. He's as advertised, looked great. The only critique on him was that third round did slow down a little bit, but Lopez is awesome. I see a lot of people talking title shot next. You got to give it to Volk. Volk's got to get the winner of Topuria and Holloway. And I'll talk about this more on my live chat, but Volk had years of title defenses. That should be rewarded in an immediate title shot after losing his belt. So I think Lopez should fight either the winner of Ivoyev and Sterling, and I know he already lost to Ivoyev, but if it's Sterling especially, that's the fight to make. Or Arnold Allen. He doesn't have a dance partner either. I just want to see Diego Lopez do a 5-round fight. I think that makes sense. As far as Ortega, number of different ways you could go with this one. Maybe like a, I don't know. I don't even know. No one's coming to mind right now. You let me know in the comments you want to see Ortega fight next. Three biggest stock risers. Those were easy. Merab, Valentina, Diego Lopez. Quick honorable mention to Ribovic, who had that split decision win over Zell Huber. He's really coming into his own. This was one of the best fights we've seen this year, period. Just an absolute barn burner. Great fight to add on the pay-per-view. I know I was critical of this fight being on the pay-per-view, but listen, it delivered. It was a great fight of the night for sure. He definitely rose up because he's 13-1 now. Big win over Zell Huber. Came through as an underdog. He has to get an honorable mention as my stock risers. Okay, let's get to our stock droppers. And initially, when I was coming up with this list before the main event, I was thinking because before the main event comes, it's like, okay, where am I at on the stock report? And I was like, Alexa Grasso, easy's got to top this list. No, someone topped her, and that's Sean O'Malley. Just the thing is that if O'Malley would have you know, you could give him the 5th, maybe give him the 3rd. But outside of that, like, Merab was in no danger tonight. None at all. Like, I would have, if O'Malley had at least hit Merab and maybe Merab was wobbled a bit and he could have gone for the finish, that would be a different story. But, like, man, O'Malley, like, he didn't look good tonight. And that's not taking anything away from Merab. I think Merab had an amazing performance tonight, but O'Malley didn't look good at all. And if, like, you're supposed to be this, you know, great champion and, you know, this big star for the UFC, you can't have one-sided losses like this. This is not only a huge stock drop for O'Malley, it's a huge stock drop for the UFC. This is a big chip for them. And the fact that he's not champion really hurts their business at the end of the day, not having him as champion. So, yeah, just so many things about this fight. The fact that it wasn't competitive, the fact that, you know, O'Malley really couldn't get off, you know, any good shots really early on. He was going to the body, but nothing really that hurt Merab. Yeah, this is a huge hit to Sean O'Malley because now everyone's going back and looking at the resume and going, dude, this guy, like, you know, he was, you know, people talk about like Dana White privilege. Like, you would probably put Sean O'Malley's name next to it, right? There's so many things now that you can nitpick. And I'm not a big nitpicker when it comes to going back on someone's resume. One of the things that drives me nuts is when people do this with John Jones. John Jones only fought middleweights. It's like, no, not really. Most of those guys he fought were mainstays at light heavyweight. But look, the first couple fights, and then he had the weird fight with Cheeto. You know, after that, you know, Almeida, Montinho, Paiva. The Munoz fight, I mean, if this was any other fighter, they're probably doing a rematch because that was an eye poke. The Yan fight, I don't think he won, and then he fights Sterling on short notice. Like, all these criticisms, I think, are fair. They are. The way he looked tonight, I think that's absolutely fair to say, just because he didn't look good. Like, you know, I felt like O'Malley was very good, and he would have more to show tonight, and he didn't show it tonight at all. So, yeah, and I think O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen's the fight to make, by the way. I think that's the one to do. But yeah, no questions asked. Sean O'Malley, biggest stock dropper. Second biggest stock dropper has to be Alexa Grasso. She loses her belt just like O'Malley did, and also did not fight very well. By the way, I'm just seeing here, Alexa Grasso's real name is Karen. Probably you can see good reason why she went with Alexa. That was a saving grace. Anyways, but yeah, just didn't have anything for Valentina. A couple submissions, but that's it. Where does she go from here? You know, it's going to be tough to say, like, because she got dominated here. Like, you know, Valentina, you know, had her number. So she drops, and again, this is another tough thing for the UFC because, you know, they could use Grasso for these types of cards like the Sphere, or, you know, any cards in Mexico. They can still use her there, but if you're not the champ, that doesn't hold as much either. So her stock drops because she obviously lost the belt as well, and yeah, not good at all as far as Grasso losing her title and just getting dominated in that fight. And then the other big stock dropper as well has got to be Brian Ortega. Again, he did not look good in this fight either. I heard some people saying retirement. I'm not there per se, but yeah, a tough setback for Ortega. The thing with me with Ortega is, like, you know, he's lost 3 of his last 4. He did beat Yair in his last fight, but just not fighting that much, right? Like, these are, you know, 2021, then he fights in 2022, doesn't fight till 2024 because of injuries. So yeah, and he's not younger. He's 33. He's going to move up a weight class. So, you know, we'll see what types of possibilities are up there, but I don't think it's going to go that great for him. Like, you fought a guy in Lopez who, yeah, he's got some serious power, but those guys at 55 got some power. You imagine him and Justin Gaethje, imagine him and Poirier. I mean, he's going to get similar damage on his face. I just think, I think Ortega's going to have a tough time at lightweight. And again, him losing here puts him on a title contention, and or in that contender spot. And now it's back to the drawing board for Ortega. So we'll see what happens there. Honorable mention has to go to Yasmin. Huge favorite, one of the biggest favorites on the card, and she gets finished in the first round. Not good. I think there's some chin issues with Yasmin. If she fights any strikers again, I'm going to take some pause on that, just because that shot was not that hard, and she went down pretty easily. So credit to Ketlin Souza for getting the win here. But yeah, so just to quickly recap, and again, in the comments, I would like you to let me know your top 3 stock risers, top 3 stock droppers. I think it's pretty obvious on this one because we only had 10 fights, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as well. So just to recap, Merab, Valentina, Diego Lopez, your biggest stock risers. O'Malley, Grasso, Ortega, your biggest stock drop. This is actually the first time that I've actually used the same 3 fights for the biggest stock risers, biggest stock droppers. It's the first time that's ever happened, but I have to tonight. Like, who else on this card? Because there wasn't a lot of notable names or notable fights on here that you could really mention, you know? So I think that's pretty obvious. So like I said, let me know in the comments your top 3 picks. A lot of people like to come on these videos and nitpick and stuff. That's fine. We can discuss that, but I would really like to get your own picks and hear what you think is better, or if you agree or disagree with me, love to hear that. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @LynchOnSports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.